morning are an interesting juxtaposition of two very different approaches to faith and the life of faith. And sometimes it's hard to put the two together and go, what does one have to do with the other? Which is why I'm here today. Okay. About 4 years ago, I did a yoga teacher training, and one of the stories that was told by my teacher was a father teaching his son about the heart of yoga, the heart of yoga, the heart of yoga. And he invited him to put his hands in what we would call our praying position, what they call in yoga the Namaste Mudra. But the way he did it was he had his hands slightly open so that the palms aren't pressed together, but they're slightly open and the thumbs. And he said to his son, "Look inside, and what do you see?" And the boy said, "I see nothing." And the father said, "Exactly. That's where we all begin." What he was trying to say is what we perceive as nothing is actually pure potential. Pure potential. Endless potential. Right there. There's also a saying that it's easy to count the number of seeds in an apple, but it's impossible to count the number of apples in a seed. Because, of course, when you plant the seed, you get the tree, and the tree produces apples. And the seeds from those trees produce more apples, and the seeds. So you have this idea about the pure potential of one little seed. Now, a mustard seed is much, much smaller than an apple seed. I don't even think you could cut it open successfully to look inside it and get any kind of vision of pure potential. But the whole idea of pure potential is it's invisible until you make it show up. Sometimes when we read this verse about Jesus saying, if you had this faith of the size of a mustard seed, it would be fine, and there's kind of if we read it wrong, if we look at it in a not clear sense, we have the feeling that Jesus is kind of scolding his followers. If you only had this much faith. But I don't think that that's what is going on here, and especially when you hear him going on to tell a story about slaves and masters, right after a story about faith and seeds. I think what Jesus is trying to say is, faith is not a quantitative, it's not a quantitative entity, it's not a quantitative concept. It just is. It just is. So, even if your faith is so tiny that if I squeeze it between my thumb and finger, you can't see it, that's faith. And that's all you need. So, when the apostles are going, increase our faith, he's saying, can't do that, because this is all you need. This is all you need. Small beginnings are very important, and they can have huge, huge consequences. Think of Jesus himself. He started just walking down the beach and saying, "You, come with me. You, come with me." Until he had about 12 people that he considered friends and students, disciples, apprentices. That's not a lot of people, not a lot, but that's what he started with. And each of them had within themselves only that little tiny seed of pure potential. I don't know if I could give you a number of Christians in the world today? Do you have any idea, Chuck? Billions?
2 billion.
2 billion Christians in the world. Started with 12 guys, 12 ordinary guys. Kind of like the guys here that go out on the boats to Alaska and fish. 12 guys. 2 billion people. Only took 2,000 years. But that's not much time either. Okay? Think of some other significant movements that changed geographic landscapes, that changed political landscapes. Think of Gandhi. Think of Martin Luther King Jr. They started just with that seed within themselves, with a small group of people around them, with the truth that they had to tell. And the truth was their capacity to take that mustard seed and turn it into something big. By virtue of their commitment to their principles, their commitment to their faith, their commitment to their spiritual path, they engendered movements that changed history, that changed how people live together. I know I've mentioned a couple of times before, and unfortunately most of the media doesn't cover it, that there is now an encampment of about 4,000 or 5,000 people in North Dakota to protect the waters of the Missouri River against a pipeline coming through. I started following this story, I think, in August, and it started with about 3 young women who decided to take a run from North Dakota to Washington, D.C. Okay, that was August. We're talking like 2 months later. There's a small city on this reservation now. People have come from all over the continent. And they don't call themselves protester. They call themselves protectors. They are protectors of sacred waters. They are protectors of the land which they see as holy, as sacred. And they are protective of their way of life and the planet that sustains them and the rest of us. And it started with 3 young women. So in this way, we get this sense of what faith is capable of. Now, we tend to put faith and miracles together. If you just have enough faith, you can do miracles. And we often see TV preachers who do instantaneous healings and things like that. And we have this idea that a miracle is something that happens right away. It's something that happens now. You snap your fingers, or you put your hands on someone's head and you say a little prayer to Jesus, and it's done. But miracles are not always that fast. When I talk about these people who started with an idea, with a seed, with a tiny seed of faith, of hope, of vision, that over time became huge political or social or spiritual movements, these are miracles. These are miracles. And they wrought change in the world that we live. So now we understand the power of faith is simply the ability to drop in comfortably to the realm of pure potential. To find within you what is your vision, what is your word to share, what is your gift to offer, and know that within you, within your heart, within that hollow little place between your hands, when you put them together to pray, is the realm of pure potential. St. Augustine said that miracles do not exist outside of nature, but they exist to broaden our understanding of exactly how amazing nature can be. They simply broaden our horizons, broaden our vision and our perception of where it is we live and who it is we are. So this is who we are, according to the second story Jesus tells. That when we have done the miracle, when we have manifested something, then we simply say, I'm just a worthless slave. I'm just a worthless slave. The Greek word there is a little tricky. Some people interpret it as worthless. Some people interpret it as humble. But it carries the sense that when I do this work, I have no ego investment, because it was not me, according to how my ego sees myself, that did this work. It was God in the realm of pure potential that worked through me to make this happen. Okay? Now he talks about, and this can be an uncomfortable story, because we've lived with this history of slavery in the States, in our own country there. And there's so much slavery still in the world. And so we tend to be uncomfortable with this concept. So let's just use the word servant instead. Slavery was not uncommon in Jesus' time, and he was comfortable with the term because it was a social political reality in his day. But the idea is that if you are a landowner or a person of some means and you have a servant, let's say in the story he has one, and this servant goes out in the morning and he does chores, whatever, feeds animals, gets food prepped for the day, whatever. He goes out and he tends the fields and he tends the animals, all of this work. Are you reading me, Shirley? Yes. Your chicken ranch. And then comes in and prepares the meal at the end of the day for the master. And Jesus says, this is who you are. And at the end of the day, when you have performed your miracles, or you have lived your vision, or you have made a difference in someone's life, what do you have to say for yourself? You don't have anything to say for yourself. You have something to say for God within. You don't say, I am this wonderful person who did these many things today. You say, I'm just doing what I'm told to do. I am a humble servant of God. It's a journey. The journey of kind of moving your ego gently out of the way so you can really, really work on who you are spiritually and how you are going to express God's love in your life. But eventually, we can get to that place where we understand this great work of the tiny seed of faith. This isn't my work. This work is so much bigger than me, and you, and you, and you, and you. Bigger than all of us. And truly, what we are is simply loyal servants, just doing what we're told to do. Go out, preach if that's your gift, teach if that's your gift, heal if that's your gift, lead if that's your gift. Whatever you feel is your expression of that seed of pure potential. It's just what I do. That's it. It's what we do. Because our greatness doesn't lie within ourselves. Our greatness lies within that which we serve. And guess what? That takes a lot of the pressure off, doesn't it? Easy peasy being a servant in that regard. Just do what you're told. And that is how we can just cast aside our burdens. Embrace when we pray, when we put our hands together, to embrace that concept, that idea of nothingness but pure potential that is within our hands to offer.